And now, live from the 2015 Vancouver International Wine Festival, Anthony Gismondi and Casey Wilson. This is Tony and Casey's Best of Food and Wine on Sea Isle 650.
Who can it be now? Who can it be now? Who can it be now? Who can it be now?
Welcome back to the Best of Food and Wine. We're on location at the 37th Annual Vancouver International Wine Festival. We're live on the floor, actually, just off of the edge of the Australian section. And speaking of Australia, our next guest comes from there. SteveMeyer is the chief winemaker of WyndhamEstate. Joins us on the stage. Steve, how are you?
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Having fun in Vancouver?
Yeah, it's great. It's my second trip here, so it's been great fun. Yeah.
First festival?
First festival, but I was here about a year and a half ago.
What do you think of the festival?
It's great. It's the way the Australian section's set up especially is great. You can go to each state and see what's going on, so it's nice the way it's been split up.
And do the consumers know how to taste?
Yes, I think so. It's been very impressed with the way the consumers are coming in. They're very interested in the wines. Mm-hmm. So, it's been excellent.
Well, I love the room setup. This has been going on for a bit of a while, but it's of course it's not. It's not that the Australians don't know their regions, but we're just becoming more familiar with the sub-regions. It's great to see them situated that way. Tell us a little bit about where Wyndham is situated in that region. Maybe that's a good way to start.
Okay, well, we have a number of wines from a number of different regions. Yeah. The wine we've got tonight is the Langhorne Creek Shiraz, but our heritage comes back from the Hunter Valley, and we're over in the New South Wales section.
Famous, the Hunter Valley, actually.
Absolutely.
We know, well, I think Bruce Turrell was probably the first guy to come to Vancouver maybe 30 years ago.
Yep.
Talk a bit about the Hunter. And you got a new highway, don't you now, from Sydney to...
Yes, there's a new highway up to the Hunter Valley, yes.
Kind of cool. Yeah, we like that.
How long does that take?
It's about 2 hours from Sydney, so that's pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful valley. Can you give us a little sense of the Hunter and what it's like today, say, versus, Barossa or Napa, or what kind of valley is it?
Well, it's reasonably well spread out, but there's a lot of great cellar doors in the area, a lot of great restaurants. Mm-hmm. A lot of people fly in and out from Sydney to come up just for the day, so a lot of day trips up there as well.
And people go for the weekend up to the Hunter.
Yeah.
So, and there's a few kangaroos there, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few kangaroos. You see a lot in the vineyards actually up that way. Yeah. You have to shoo them away. Yeah. Politely, of course.
Well, tell us a little bit of... Sorry, go ahead, Casey.
I was just wondering how you do that. How do you shoo away a kangaroo?
Oh, you don't want to know, Casey.
Best left unsaid, probably.
Okay.
There's another letter on the end of shoo away there, I think. Well, let's get to the wine because we always run out of time. George Wyndham, we've got the Langhorne Creek Shiraz 2012 vintage. We've been talking all week long about how sensational the vintage is to a number of people. Yeah. Tell us a little bit in the Hunter. All the vintages are different in different regions. Was it good in the Hunter as well? Or?
2012 was a pretty strong region in vintage in the region. Yeah, it was quite strong. But where this wine is from, through South Australia, was an excellent year. Yeah. But overall, 2012 was a great year. One that I think people remember for a long period of time.
So if our listeners asked you what Langhorne Creek Shiraz was, would there be a way to describe that, say, versus Barossa or McLaren Vale or something like that?
Yeah, I think with Langhorne Creek, it's like they have great colour for one. But they also have very sort of soft, silky tannins as well. So they're great for Shiraz because you get that nice softness, which what we're looking for with Shiraz from Australia.
Yeah. Such a beautiful nose.
The choc mint is a characteristic that quite often people pick up with this wine.
Which is why you say it can go with lamb and mint sauce.
Absolutely, yeah. It can go.
You don't have mint sauce here like you have in.
You don't have that?
Australia.
No, okay.
No, not the same.
Yeah, well, lamb obviously is very common in Australia, but it can go with a whole range of red meats.
Yes.
It's great. It's a great barbecue wine, but you can have it with a fine steak as well. So.
I'd like it with southern barbecue, too.
Southern barbecue?
Yes.
So that's more...
From southern U.S.
Yeah.
With
the richer sauces.
Richer sauce, yes.
Yeah, I think that would go quite well as well.
I'm wondering why we're sitting here with no food night after night after night.
Yes, look at all the food around us.
I thought you were in charge of getting some food.
No, I'm in charge of the wine.
You're in charge of the wine. Of drinking it.
Yes, of drinking. I'd like to know who George Wyndham was.
Yes, George Wyndham was an Englishman who, back in 1827, decided to come to Australia. He came from a very wealthy family back in England, and decided that a life in British politics wasn't for him. The British government, he didn't agree with what they were doing at the time. And he decided, after seeing that there was the possibility of buying large amounts of land in Australia, decided to settle in Australia, which is 40 years after settlement, roughly. So he came to Australia with his young wife, and
She must have shrieked.
You can only imagine what she must have thought at the time. So
Wow.
came into New South Wales, and then basically had to walk up to the Hunter. So that's 2 hours by car these days.
Spiders, the snakes, oh my God.
Bush rangers.
Yeah.
There was obviously no highway back then. This is 1828.
Wow.
And he planted the first commercial Shiraz vineyard in Australia. So he's very much a pioneer of Australian Shiraz.
Yeah, great history there.
And so it was right back at the beginning. So he's a very famous man in this country.
It's it's been great to see the development. We've been talking about it to some people, the change that's going on in Australia now. A lot of the change has been going on for about a decade, but we're just starting to see really the change in the wines coming to Canada, and it's great. I think we're. It's almost like there's a new renewal for Australian wine. I don't know. Do you feel it tonight, or do you feel it in the room when you talk
I hope
to
so.
people?
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly it's an opportunity for us to show off again and give the opportunity for you guys to see how many great wines we do make. And there's certainly a
Many of our listeners will know your wines from the famous Bin series. What's going on there? Is staying the course? Do we still see the great Bin, Bin 555 and so on?
Yeah, well, Bin 555 I think has been around in this country for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
So I think our first wine that was brought to this country was the WyndhamEstate Oak Cast Chardonnay. So I don't know if you remember going that far back.
I certainly do.
And then Bin 555.
I remember the woman who sold it. And she lived in West Van, and it was the number one selling white wine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ages.
Yeah, so someone picked it up back then and decided to bring it here. And Canada is is WyndhamEstate's biggest export country. So domestically,
there's a long
biggest.
history there.
Absolutely. So Bin 55 has been around for a long time, and we still think we make a great wine at a great price. And but we have other wines around it, of course.
Sure. Well. So let's just talk a bit about your role. You're the chief winemaker.
Yep.
How you have other people working with you. How does that work? You go in the room and what happens? Like, you tell people what to do, or do you do it, or do they do it, or is it a team effort?
Definitely a team effort from the vineyard right through to the winemaking as well. So it's very much a team game. We have a number of winemakers within our team. And we have reds and whites in our portfolio. So
I feel like they'd be older than you. You're such a young guy to be a chief winemaker. It's impressive. Yeah.
Some are. But we use diplomacy. We're pretty diplomatic in our country.
Well, how would you describe your wine style? Like, do you have some fingerprint on the wine? Have no fingerprint? What are you trying to do with the wine when you bring it into the winery?
Well, definitely with WyndhamEstate, it's about bigger, richer style of wines. Yeah. We don't tend to make, we don't make, I should say, any sort of lighter styles. We don't make any sweet wines. Yep. It's all about richer, full-bodied styles.
No wimpy wines.
Exactly. Even though they have their place, absolutely.
Sure.
But we're mainly red focused, but we do make a couple of white wines as well. But definitely in the bigger style of wine. So a bit more oak and probably more suited to the North American palate.
Our guest is SteveMeyer. He's the chief winemaker from WyndhamEstate, and we have been tasting the George Wyndham Langhorne Creek Shiraz, the 2012 vintage. A great vintage. I asked a question earlier in a tasting today, is vintage important to you in Australia? I mean, everybody says, it's a big warm place. Every vintage is the same. What would you say to that?
Oh, I wouldn't agree with that one. Actually, we're in vintage right at the moment, so I'm not that popular that I've actually come away from
can imagine.
Away from vintage. But 12 was a very strong year. We're having a very good year this year as well, but a very fast and furious season. But we do have our ups and downs, but I think that's actually important, because if it looked the same every year, I think you need the stories of the highs and sometimes the lows as well. But we do have the diversity. It's a big country, and we don't all have the same quality vintage every year. It's too diverse for that to be possible. So it adds to the story, I believe.
Worried about water in Australia?
I think we always worry about water, but it's not too bad at the moment. We had quite a lot of rain in 2011. But it's always something that is front of mind, definitely.
And everybody's very conscientious of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to be.
Unlike here. Do you notice a difference when you come here?
Well, apparently it rains here, but it hasn't rained the whole time I've been here.
No.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely you can see a difference. I mean, it's very dry in our part of the world. We had very little rainfall through spring this year, and so it is definitely a dry
But
summer.
people are careful about how much water they use.
And the governments actually restrict water use
well,
as
they
well.
don't get 100 millimeters for 20 days in a row.
Yeah.
Each day, 100 mils. So that's why
we get about 500 mils a year.
Yeah,
so,
we get that in a week.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful with the way we use water.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Steve, it's fantastic to catch up with you. I should tell our listeners that if they're keen, they should go over to the Vancouver Sun website. And Art, you could actually connect them through to that.
I'm listening.
Fantastic video of you done.
Yes,
have you seen it?
I haven't seen it as yet. I need to have a look.
It's terrific.
It worked out all right?
Yeah, if I do say so myself. We were in Loungeworks on, I don't know what it was, Monday night or Tuesday
Yeah,
night.
I saw it. It is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
video,
You'll love it.
really well done, and it's a quick synopsis of the Wyndham story. So Art will send that link out to our listeners on Facebook, and we wish you well the rest of the week
Great.
in Vancouver, and come back and see you soon.
Will do. Thanks for having
Great.
me. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
SteveMeyer, Chief Winemaker at Wyndham Estate. We've been enjoying the Langhorne Creek Shiraz, the 2012 vintage. It is delicious, really worth picking up. This is a great wine for lamb, Casey.
Yes, excellent
Grilled
wine.
lamb chop.
You know what
maybe
else?
Something simple.
It's also
What
good.
about veal? Just grill it. One left, right. boom.
Grill would be good, and pungent cheeses would go very well.
Pungent cheeses.
Gouda, aged goat,
That
and
sounds
Parmesan.
like a PC, a politically correct thing to say. Pungent cheeses.
Yes.
Okay.
Worth checking out.
Hey, we're on the floor of the Vancouver International Wine Festival. It's year 37. Australia is the theme. There's 170 wineries here, and we're going to talk to them all in the next hour. How are we going to do that, Stu? He has no idea. We're going to do it by taking a quick break. We'll be right back.
There's lots more still ahead. Live from the 2015 Vancouver International Wine Festival, this is Tony and Casey's Best of Food and Wine on Sea Isle 650.